Myra made notes. I didn't make any notes. I'm going into this
Because Myra's a real friend and you're not.
I made notes 20 minutes before this.
Okay, you're both fake friends.
I'm gonna cheat. I'm so excited. This feels crazy. Belle is on the... Myra and I are on the same side, which is blasphemy.
Normally I switch around because I'm the third, and that's okay because like they're together and they're dating, and
we're not.
We're in the
fan fiction.
This is the fan fiction realm.
And I'm just the unicorn. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Gilded Eye podcast.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's it. That's all we have. What is it?
Well, you didn't even give us compliments. So.
Oh
yeah.
Welcome back to the stew. My best friend Myra. And my second best friend, Mia. Because Myra did minimal research and Mia did none.
I didn't do any research.
Just kidding. We're gonna do my favorite green-eyed gal, Myra Lendrum.
Oh my God.
And what beautiful blue eyes you have, Mia.
Why is today different than normal?
Today's different because I'm running the episode, and what I wanted to focus on this episode is all of the shit you guys say that I have no idea what it means, and apparently after talking to you guys, you also have no idea what it means.
Sometimes.
Perfect. I feel like a lot of these terms in context make sense, but trying to describe them out of context is what becomes very difficult, which is what I have found in my my research, my very annoying research. And I just want to say that especially after this, art education is a privilege. And if you have had the privilege to learn about these things and have them make sense, good on you. But if I don't know what I'm talking about, it's because I did not have that privilege. I went to art camp at the Worcester Art Museum, but I was 8, and I learned to draw. And they asked me if I knew what perspective was, and I thought they were talking about a scene from Ratatouille, okay? And I said that with my full chest. And the lady looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, what are you not understanding? It's that scene from Ratatouille. Oh, your nails.
Oh, my God. Thank you.
They're so cute.
I just got them done yesterday.
They're beautiful. Myra's new nails are here. I'm running the episode. It's titled, What the Heck Are You Guys Even Talking About Right Now? And that is how it will stay.
Let's also, visuals are going to be very important for this episode because Belle put a lot of effort into them. And so go on the youtube.com/Gilded Eye podcast to see what the heck we are even talking about right now.
You will see some
You'll
slides.
find out that we don't know.
Yes. So there's terms, movements, questions that I had during episodes before that I didn't ask because they were dumb, and then I Googled and put in this slideshow. And then there's opinion questions at the end for you guys that are very silly, good way to end the...
I'm so excited.
So psyched. Yeah, let's
The terms, though, are all from Tegan, so you can thank
He's
Tegan for that.
setting me up for failure.
I don't know
They were
any
simple,
technical art terms.
Perfect.
I know
Me fucking
movements.
neither.
I know movements and history. I do not know. I'm not an artist.
Me
Well, I am to myself, but not publicly.
Yeah. Well, this is a good way, because I feel like sometimes you guys have talked about art, like paintings. You're like, yeah, like the composition.
Oh.
What does that even mean? What is a composition? Well, good thing you asked, because what is a composition?
I actually know this one.
I know this one too.
Okay,
Yep.
let me give you a description I found on the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, and a picture I found on the internet. Composition. At its core, composition involves the conscious placement and manipulation of an array of artistic elements, transforming the canvas into a stage where colors, shapes, lines, and textures take center stage. Sure.
To say that in a way that's perhaps more succinct.
Yeah.
Composition is just the whole fucking thing. It's the art piece that you're looking at.
Thank you.
It's what the artist has put forth. It could be a statue, a sculpture. It could be even performance art, painting, drawing, illustration.
It's just the thing. It's just the thing.
It's the thing.
Why?
I would say in terms of like 2D art, like painting, drawing, anything like that, if you have a blank canvas, it's how every piece of the painting relates to one another in terms of scale, in terms of where it's placed. So if you have a very central composition, it means that maybe it's a portrait where the figure or whatever subject you're looking at it is right in the middle. If it's an imbalanced composition, maybe it's very like diagonal or something like that.
Yeah.
You hear a lot like balanced composition if the pieces of the painting are working together. But anyway, layman's terms, it's just like how everything relates to each other in the final piece.
In there. Yeah.
What I have found in my travels through the internet, And what made sense to me, I was reading it and I was like, this is just describing the thing and just breaking it down to smaller pieces, but that is just breaking apart the word composition.
Yeah, it's going to change depending on the piece, too.
Right. And what it made me think of was when we went to Zoe's senior art show last year, her friend Tristan was like, I just love the way it takes up the space. And that, reading this and thinking about that moment, I'm like, oh, the composition of her piece is the way you view her sculpture, the way she wants you to view her sculpture in that space. And because it's 3D, it's a 3D viewing. I was like, wow, okay, I get composition now.
Yeah.
So if you want to think about it like that, it's like, okay, I'm looking at this thing. How is it meant to be looked at? Done.
Yep.
Done. We're not talking about your interpretation. We're not talking about any of that shit. It's just literally, what are you looking at?
Yep.
Okay, composition. Next. Anyone want to say this word for me?
Chiaroscuro.
Caravaggio.
Yeah, I actually purposely chose not to put one of his paintings in here because I hate his guts.
Good. He's horrible.
So I've juiced this
Vermeer! I love Vermeer.
So cool. We've talked about this before in other episodes, basically the way that light and shadows interact to create depth in a 3D image in a 2D space. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
I would say chiaroscuro is often like the violent use of shadow and light, or that's kind of how it's grown to be used. Like in a composition that is light flooded, you might not use the word chiaroscuro just because it's about light and dark happening copiously at the same time.
Chiaroscuro as well tends to come from just one light source or one space. So like when it was made, typically it would come from a high off corner somewhere and like bask everyone from one direction, which is why sorry.
Leaving you light my world like nobody else.
All right.
Yeah, like in here we're looking at A Girl with a Pearl Earring by Vermeer, and her face is in fact illuminated from one direction, and the rest is darkness.
I'm sorry.
The way that you flip your head.
She is so beautiful.
She is so beautiful.
Oh my God.
I could talk about this so much.
I just you showed it to us before, and I was like, yeah, I've seen this so many times. Looking at her close up, luscious lips.
Crazy.
Lip gloss.
The teeth, too.
The teeth. I'm like, I have a crush on this woman. What's her name?
She's looking at you, too. Like, when you stare at her, it's like you kind of fall in love a little.
Mm-hmm.
She's a trony. Did I say that?
What?
So that's another term we can define.
Wow. Do it up.
Trony is a term from...
Wait, spell it.
Tronie, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not sure about if it's a Y, but I also learned about this in my Flemish Renaissance, or no, I think it was my Flemish Baroque class, Dutch Baroque. And it was basically a caricature because the fact that she's wearing a turban here, nobody wore a turban. People would often incorporate elements of Oriental, quote, Oriental dress or any dress that they deemed other.
Like exotic.
Yeah. Exoticism was huge. Like they would put elements of dress in what appears to be portraits to kind of make a caricature of somebody.
Trompe l'oeil.
That's how you say that?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I love this one.
means.
Oh my god.
When I tell you that the internet sure fucking doesn't either, I'm telling you the truth. I literally...
Mia does.
Like, I can get, like, the basics of it, but you're just putting...
This is a fantastic
I just get really annoyed about, like, putting the words... Like these words seem so annoying to me just to be like, this is an optical illusion. This is an optical illusion. Those people aren't actually dangling off that building. Hee hee ha ha. It's like, no, I am...
They have to... It's pretentious.
It is.
It's a little pretentious.
It is gatekeepy.
It's
I think
gatekeepy.
we've definitely talked about it before, but it's kind of how art institutions stay in business by like gatekeeping the terms and the practices
right, and the intellect and
putting that barrier up with language. Also, I think that artists and humanitarians like to connect to places of history and events from history. So like using this term kind of is like, look at how educated and cool we are and whatever.
We're so intellectual.
Yeah.
And it makes it so that people on the outside of these institutions and on the outside of these conversations sort of are like, oh, we don't understand what you're talking about. It's intentional. It's inaccessible. Because
trompe l'oeil, the term that we're talking about right now, essentially, like you said, just refers to an illusion created in paint specifically. When I was in oil painting classes, a lot of how we learned application and observation was doing trompe-l'oeil paintings. We did one where we ripped up magazines and we made like an abstract magazine collage, and we had to. It was so fun. I actually really liked it. Then we had to paint that exact thing with the trying to make it trompe-l'oeil. So the folds in the paper. It was a simple, quote unquote, like composition, haha.
Right.
But it was like a practice and application technique, and it's what a lot of artists do to try and like master the application practice.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm being hateful just for the sake of being Belle and being hateful.
It's a reasonable thing to be hateful towards, I think.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, so cool. It's so cool.
It is so cool.
Like, I was looking at so many pictures. Obviously, I can't put every picture I've seen, but there's so many pictures of, like, ceilings, frescoes, whatever, and, like, they look like they're coming down the walls. Incredible. Actually insane. I was so floored.
I think a lot of it is so cool, but then the terms and the explanations, it's just eye roll.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
So it
is.
I don't know. Like, I get what you mean, where when it's accessible to you and when you understand, you're like, wow.
That's so
but
cool. But
the
then
initial hatred and resentment is still there.
I'll also say, too, in my slides, I use the word foreshortening.
Mm-hmm.
Zoe said that to me the other day. I drew something. She goes, "Oh, you're actually pretty good at foreshortening." And I said, "Yeah, thanks." I had no idea what she was saying.
Is that a term, too?
No. But now I know.
Oh, yeah,
Because
great.
I was looking up this word.
It's just another perspective thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
make it look short because it's coming at you.
Make short,
Come at.
Go far? No. Come at. To me. Positive and negative space. Okay, space in general. I did a lot of reading about space because I didn't want to put up slides about positive and negative space and be like, I know what space is, and now I know what this is. I still don't know what either of them are. I get it, okay? It's like the distance between you and the thing, the space within the piece, with the space between other pieces. It's space is the whole thing.
It's very conceptual,
It's very
too. It's hard to define.
Yes. Very cool, though.
It is cool.
Dating a sculpture lady, the whole thing is space. It's 3D. You have space. You know what I mean?
Manipulating
filled.
space, yeah.
Positive and negative space, though. I thought I understood it. Okay, very basic. The way that it described it on artandcontext.org, which is where I got, or .com, I don't know, where I got most of this information, besides Britannica.
Love.
I have references at the end, okay? I got it for most of those. They use this specific example where the positive space is Adam and God and his chirps.
Chirps.
And the negative space is the space between them.
Yeah.
Yes.
To make you look at the guys and not at the stuff. But then it said right afterwards, well, then if you're focusing on the stuff, then does that not become the positive space and the rest becomes the negative? I was like, ugh.
I think it all goes back to I'm glad we did composition first because everything comes back to that, I think.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I planned that.
Where
Thank you.
I think that
Smart choice.
for this piece in particular, I think that you'll hear the term like utilizing negative space a lot, especially in 2D. Well, I'm just a 2D artist, so I hear it in that context a lot. But in this specific case, the two hands are the only parts of the positive space areas in the painting that reach into the negative space.
So
therefore,
kind of
our eye
emphasizing
is
that,
going to travel
right.
there. So that's kind of like people use negative space as a way to enhance certain aspects of the composition where like action is happening or just to make your eye travel around more intentionally.
So, for example, in like a portrait, you'd ideally want to have a lot of negative space around the subject to sort of emphasize their presence as the central figure in the composition.
Right.
Like you would not want to have positive space all around them, like lots of things happening, because then it gets lost that it's a portrait.
Okay. Yes.
I love negative space.
It's very cool.
I like it.
Again, I've said this many episodes. My mom has this on her wall in the house. Just have to put it out there. Love you, Roberta. I think it's iconic.
Shout
It
out.
is iconic.
Shout out, Roberta. She will never listen to this. She'll be so bored. Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Color
theory has got to be the most annoying thing I've ever read about. Not because it's pretentious in any way, but because it's just confusing. And because the way my brain works, it's like, okay, red versus, what is it, green? But then, how many iterations of red are there?
Yeah.
How many iterations of green are there? Like, I start thinking about it very mathematically, and I can't fully agree. You know what I mean? So I'm like, also, how do you know? How do you know? Anyways, so here's complementary colors, to Jackie Chan. Here's a very basic diagram. Complementary colors.
Yep.
Across the color wheel is your complementary color. Red, green, orange, whatever is it, blue. What else is it? Purple, yellow. Sure. Yes?
Yes.
Makes sense.
Uh-huh.
But then, analogous colors. Now you're telling me there's other colors that go with the color. Obviously, duh.
They're like family.
But they're family
This is
of
familia.
colors.
This is reminding me of the periodic table in chemistry, how there's families.
There's families of colors, there's families of elements, but at least in the periodic table, there's a finite number.
Right. Absolutely.
So I want you to tell me right now, what is the analogous colors of magenta 3? You know what I mean? It's just
what?
It's just like how I'm not even annoyed about it. I'm just more like, how do you figure it out? How do you know?
You make a lot of color charts. That's
literal
color charts. In painting, we did 15 different palettes because you work in palettes. So I did this kind of naturalistic palette where we were working with a lot of like yellow ochre, earthy green,
that makes sense
white.
For you.
Yeah, like burnt sienna, burnt umber, those kind of colors.
Umber?
It's like dark
beautiful.
brown.
Thank you.
But it was very fun and it turned out really cool. But it was really tedious, and you do realize like it's not chemistry. Well, a lot of painting is kind of chemistry because you have to go into it with this certain ratio of color to color because I'll give an example. There's one blue called phthalo blue, and it's very, very, very powerful. Like if you take a little tiny like dot of phthalo and you try and mix it with yellow to get green, it will dominate the whole. If you take like a giant brush full of yellow and a little dot of phthalo, you'll get like a dark green because the blue is so powerful. So you do have to like think about pigment and think about which colors you're mixing with what because it's not just like half and half. And I think a lot of that does come with like active practice.
Of course.
It's hard to like conceptualize. You kind of have to get hands-on. Because I did that. I was like, color charts, easy.
Right.
This is so boring. And then I was like fighting for my life in the trenches. Yeah. I was like, wow. But color theory is crazy. It takes a long time to like learn. And I'm still learning. I'm still actively trying to learn a lot about it.
I like watching videos of people painting, and they're like, ooh, what color do you think I'm going to put here to give him his under eye bags? And I'm like,
oh my gosh,
surely it's a dark tan. No.
Nope.
It's like purple.
Because when you're working in such nuances, something that appears to be if you go into the color wheel and pick like a gray orange, it will appear blue if you put it next to like a warmer palette. So everything is affecting everything.
So cool.
It's crazy.
Insane.
And that's why it makes really good paintings that much more impressive. When you think about the Dutch Baroque painters like Vermeer, it's nuts. Because if you color selected anything from that painting, especially in the light areas, 90% of the time it's not going to be what you imagine it to be.
It's
going to be
some
kind of
white
green
background.
or something.
It would be like darker and
I love those videos so much.
I know they're so satisfying to watch it all come together. Color theory is why a lot of artists choose not to paint from a straight white background. Mia, do you use like a base color?
Most of the time.
Most of the time,
I was taught to either use the gunk out of when you do oil painting, there's lots of residue from all the colors that the paint, so it turns into this like gray gunk that actually holds a lot of color, quote unquote, in it. So you either use that as your background or you use some kind of burnt sienna or something. But some people go crazy with it. Some people do like bright magenta, bright green.
I've seen crazy
undertones.
Videos. Yeah.
Wow. It's so impressive. So again, not annoyed by pretentiousness because it's not. This is literally just science.
This is like,
and I'm impressed.
It is crazy.
Confused, impressed. I don't want to do the math. Chemistry is hard. It's so crazy. I'm not colorblind, but I think I describe things very wrong. I have this blanket on my bed that I thought was pink the whole time I've had it. And when I started talking to Zoe, she came over and I was like, will you hand me the pink blanket? She goes, where? And I was like, the big one. It's on my bed. It's right there. She was like, baby, this is tan. This is tan. This
is it like
brown.
a blush?
I
to
don't
you?
know now. No, it's like
You have to send us a photo of it.
pink, orange, tan. Come on, salmon. They're all
It's one of those nuanced colors in that big wheel.
See what
Think
I mean?
about
It
how
is,
many.
it is.
Hurts my head.
They're analogous.
People are so staunch though. Like that is brown. I'm like, yeah, but bitch, to me it's not. It's a nice pink.
I had a fight.
We should
I
get
had a
into the
fight.
dress.
Oh, the dress.
The dress
Yeah.
is freaking blue and black.
It changed for me.
It did too for me too.
Flipped all the time.
Because then people actually showed it in its context, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, it's black and blue." But when I saw it one on one off, I was like, "That's white and gold."
I've seen it both ways, but
White and gold I
can't-
saw first too.
This
Motif?
you can't tell me that this is real. I'm literally this is the one. Okay, this is a really good example. I think I slayed with this. Okay,
Let me see. What
the
do you got?
Scream.
What are we talking about?
He did Motif. We're talking about Motif, and we're talking about the Scream because I found that this is the one that made sense. He did many iterations of this. Okay, one was with crayon, one was the final product, which was something on board. Don't remember the word. He did one that was like a man in a nice suit looking over the edge. It was like realism. Not really, but it was like a sketch. He did a bunch of them, and the website I was reading, which was all about his life, I don't remember what it was called, it's in my references, leave me alone, was talking about how the motif is that the motif is that he did it so many times. So that in
Yes.
itself is a motif.
Yes.
And also, because the final product is like a androgynous, anonymous, genderless figure, the viewer can experience in this painting what he's trying to get through, which is like the anxiety and fear, and there was
It's
a
like
whole other-
reflective to any viewer.
which is the
because
motif.
It is the motif.
Fuck off.
Motif is I feel like there is a certain amount of overlap between motif, emblem, and symbol.
And allegory question mark?
Allegory as well.
Lord.
Because all those things together in my brain are mushed up in one thing.
They do get mushed. But motif, yes, repeating element. You can have a personal motif. Mia loves celestial motifs, I think.
Wait, this is also a motif? The squiggly lines. The line
Yeah,
work is
kinda
a motif.
like a-
motif.
a recurring
Recurring
visual
element.
or
Yes.
recurring element that an artist might be drawn
Hold
to.
on, can I
Some
Google really
animals.
quickly motif versus symbol?
Oh, I should have done that.
I feel like, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Myra. I feel like motif versus allegory is that motif is something that repeats, like it could just simply be a visual. There might not necessarily be any second meaning to it. It could just be
Yes.
like a repetitive thing. But an allegory is something is almost a stand-in for something else or some greater meaning.
Yes, and allegory as well, I think, has roots in literature and then has grown to also be used in terms of art. A symbol, it says here, thank you, Google AI, a visual element that represents a concept, while a motif is just a recurring pattern. So, they are quite similar. Emblem as well is another one.
Maybe it's the kind of thing where like an allegory can be a motif, but a motif is not necessarily an allegory.
Yeah,
Something
my
like
something
God.
like that. An emblem is more abstracted. It's like an image that repeats in various different contexts that represents. It's sort of more moral than the other ones. Like
So
emblems, there were popular emblem books in, like, I believe the 17th century in the Dutch Republic, where it was just books of like rules that, like, hey, you shouldn't be a slut, and then it has like a very strange and then it's like an engraving of like a snake eating.
Oh yeah, lots of snakes in regards to bad women. Yeah.
So emblem I often associate with those moralistic undertones. Allegory as well, I think, is more concrete. I did a lot of theoretical deep dives into symbol, motif, allegory, and emblems when I was an undergrad because I wrote a paper and I used them interchangeably, and I had a professor be like, hey now, maybe figure out, like, I was talking about the Virgen de Guadalupe
sure.
as an image.
Wait, I know what that is.
Yeah.
Oh wait. I was like, wait.
Miss Girl.
This girl.
I wrote my honors thesis on her, but I wasn't sure like which one to refer to her as. But depending on the context, the visual context, it could be
Any of them.
any of them. It depends on the context that you're discussing the image or the object in.
Like the emblem of anxiety could be like the screaming person. Fuck. See what I
But
mean?
this could be an allegory for
Good Lord.
what have you.
Next. Movements. Okay, we're done with the terms. Now you've listened to this part of the podcast and you are a freaking genius. You know all the art terms you've ever needed to know. You can go out there and you can make a painting and it's perfect, right? Wrong, because now you need to know what kind you're making, because apparently that matters too. I only have 3 here.
Oh, wow.
Because there's so many.
Well, you could probably throw in a handful more.
Yeah, neither of you sent me more, so I gave up.
Oh, did you?
We'll
did
talk
you,
about them.
Yeah, we can
chat
get into
about
it.
'em.
First one. Why is there... Surrealism.
Sorry, this was the one slide that there was an animation for the text.
There's animations on other ones, but it's not supposed to be on this one.
That's very funny.
That is hilarious.
Well, surrealism. Okay, this was the most annoying thing ever.
Let me squint.
Because surrealism basically was the rejection of society after the First World War. Because who wants to live in a post-war society? Who wants to do
this
that?
is like
it's tragic.
This
it's
is
sad.
Dada's
Sister.
nephew.
Yeah, nephew.
Did Dada come first?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah.
Okay.
It did. And these people were like, it's the 1920s. We're sad. There's war. And we're going to make cool art. Sure. Awesome. Everyone's already been doing that for a long time, but have fun. I'm so sorry. Have fun. And then they said, oh, no, you're not doing surrealist art the way I think you should be doing surrealist art, so you're not a surrealist. Excuse me? This is a very bad explanation, but they started doing it because they hated society and they hated it being sad and
And then it
tragic.
grew to be what they hated.
And then it grew to be what they hated.
Yes.
As all art movements apparently do.
Yeah, when that started happening to Dadaism, they were like, they just disbanded. When Dadaism started entering mainstream, they were like, okay, we're canceled now. And the artists left were like, okay, we're going to go make surrealism. Mm-hmm. That is what they did. I think the largest difference between Dadaism and surrealism is that surrealism has more of a conceptual backbone.
Yeah.
Like, they were obsessed with Karl Marx and Sigmund Freud and the subconscious mind, and they were like, what if we painted all the weird shit we dreamt about? And yeah, I think it was founded by a poet. Photography was really big in surrealism as well.
It was this guy. He was a Parisian poet. You're so
He's
right.
the guy.
You're so genius.
He's
Oh my
the
God.
guy who Frida Kahlo was hanging out with, who really tried to adopt her into surrealism, and she was
like-
kind of like,
Yeah, he was like, you're a poet. Or wait, no,
you're a
not poet.
surrealist.
You're a surrealist.
And she was like, that's really funny, but you're pretentious in French, and I don't really vibe, so I'm going to go back to Mexico.
And the way that hers is so much better.
Yeah.
so much better. Look at this boring.
I will say there's so much surrealism that I really like
I do
just visually.
love-
I think I love
it's so
surrealism,
cool.
but it is so pretentious and
Yeah.
annoying, and I don't want to talk to any surrealist. I think that's the
Nightmare
difference. Like,
blunt
I
rotation.
Like, yeah, truly. Like
Yeah.
I when I take it out and just look at the visuals, I'm like, that's so cool. But as soon as I start reading more about it, I'm just like, oh my god.
The visuals are really nice.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And it's a lot of stuff that I think people think about on their day-to-day. Like, we've all had dreams that are, like, the craziest thing you've ever seen with
Like-
your own eyes, because you see it with your own
Right.
goddamn eyes. You know
Like
what I mean?
last night when I dreamt that I wore Trader
Yes.
Joe's chicken pot pies as shoes and dumped them in the middle of the road and called it an art piece.
But you like you put
I
tags
took a
on it or
photo
something.
I took a photo of the mushed chicken pot pies with my foot imprints in them, and I captioned it like chicken pot pie shoes. 2025 colorized 1 of 1, and then a car ran them over.
No,
The chicken pot pies. That's so surrealist.
it is.
They
Well, I would say
wish that they could.
No, that's Dada.
that's Dada.
That's Dada.
That's a performance art piece that I would pay
What's
to
his
see.
face? Damier would be.
He would love it.
Wait, not Damier. Who's the guy who's stole the toilet? Who stole the urinal?
Oh, Duchamp.
Duchamp.
Stole-
I like to think that Damier would also like it.
I
was
have
gonna
like
say
the
that.
terms of all of our past episodes.
I know,
just
it's kind of like
recycling in my
looping.
brain.
Klumpke.
Guys, we play bloopers now at the end of every episode, so please listen to them. That was a reference to a blooper.
Blooper ref.
Blooper from Rosa Bonheur.
Bon-
Please go listen.
Manure.
Bonheur. I
I
love
don't
that.
know how to say her name.
Every time you say her name, it sounds like it's so like. It's like Squilliam Fancy Son from SpongeBob. But I think that's the only way that we know how to say her name.
That's the most French I get.
Yeah, fancy.
Manure.
Bonjour.
Yeah. Wait, what was I going to say? You're so
Klumpke?
Klumpke.
Duchamp. No, yeah, Duchamp.
Oh, I was going to say, notice how I haven't tried to pronounce any word in another language.
Why are you looking at me?
God, stop.
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. First episode, I will not be canceled. Cubism. Sorry. Cubism. Started by Pablo Picasso and some other guy who I forget his name. They both realized they had similar styles, and in 1921. No, when they coined the term, it was in the 19s. Yeah.
It was in the 19s. It was, I think, 1910, maybe.
Maybe 1911. There's a 1 in there.
There's a 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe that. In a time, they did do that.
In a time, early 1900s.
And this is the only one that I liked. There's a lot of other cool ones, but I meant like from him.
The title of this one is this?
Oh, it's at the bottom. It's
The War.
Guernica. Guernica.
Yes, this is about
protest on bombing on a Spanish village.
Yes.
And it's awesome.
This is
of
one
how
of my
shitty he is.
only Picasso paintings that I do enjoy. Cubism, Pablo Picasso traveled to Africa and he witnessed communities and cultures in Africa using masks made of abstract shapes of faces. Mm-hmm. And he was like, what if I went back to Europe and told everybody that I invented that and painted it for my whole career?
Oh, no.
So that's Cubism.
That's Cubism. Anyways, so that's Cubism.
Very flat use of space. Again, use of space. Often chaotic compositions.
Yeah.
Another thing Cubists like to do was try to paint things from all angles at once, whatever the fuck that means. But yeah, Cubism stole a lot of their visual language from Africa.
Where?
I actually don't know the exact.
He probably just said he went to Africa.
I'm going to look it up right now, actually.
You know, was he French? Was Picasso French? Is he Spanish?
I think he's Spanish.
Yeah.
Picasso's Spanish. It's Central and Western Africa broadly.
Wow. See?
I think he kind of traversed. He did like a sojourn throughout. He like traveled.
A what?
A sojourn is a temporary stay, a visit, or a vacation in a certain place. This says that Pablo Picasso never actually visited Africa himself, but he was deeply inspired by African art. And in fact, all of his knowledge of African art came from museum visits and encounters with collectors, dealers, and collections in Paris.
That's bogus.
That is,
anyway.
Well, futurism pisses me off too. Because I thought this would be cool. No, futurism is this man, he got in his car and he was driving his little Fiat and he almost hit 2 cyclists, and when he survived the crash, he came out of it thinking, I love technology. I love my car. I love fascism. I love Mussolini, and I want to tell everyone about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, futurism, cool. Another modern art movement that I don't like the art, but at least they're talking about something important. No, literally no. Their whole thing is they're like urbanization, globalization.
Futurism is like ideologically opposite Dada.
Yeah, and they're talking about how they think scholars are like grotesque, and they think that they want to burn museums and schools and everything that is like important to Italy. They're
And
like,
it's ugly.
And it's ugly. That's supposed to be a train.
It's so ugly.
It really is ugly.
Ew.
Speeding train by some guy who I'm not even going to say his name because he's irrelevant to me.
I do like Afrofuturism, which came
that's
far
pretty
later.
cool.
It's more contemporary. Afrofuturism is black artists, I think predominantly Black American artists, sort of reimagining a future where there is equal opportunity and advancement and what have you.
It's like, 2,500-ish at this rate?
It's also, very different from
This
futurism. Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about Italian futurism circa World War II. Not cool futurism.
Not cool futurism
from the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of Afrofuturism going on.
Afrofuturism
I feel like
I think it
still
started in the
holding strong.
1970s and then sort of
Yeah.
has bled into contemporary art as well. Which that's another thing. Contemporary art is so hard to define because
It's just
a lot of
now.
movements that started after
lasted.
They've lasted, yeah. And there's sort of like an eclectic blend of movements happening right now. Like you can make any art right now and it would be considered contemporary. Like there are less overarching movements happening in contemporary art. It's harder to define.
Well, when we cryo-freeze ourselves and live another 7,000 years and come out, then we can see what the historians are saying about it all. And then we can do a new episode on movements, and we'll call it whatever they're calling it. And then we'll do an episode on our own podcast, and you know what I mean?
Like the Gilded Eye,
yes.
8025.
Yes.
I can't wait.
I'm looking in the future.
So psyched.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Love.
Anyways, next. I wrote I love Google because I was like, yay, I get to search all this stuff and tell my friends. And then I was like, wait, no, I hate Google. And then I was like, wait, but I love Google.
Not the company.
Not the company.
No.
I love to search things on my little laptop. So these are questions that I have had during episodes that Mia and Myra have run that I didn't ask because I didn't want to sound stupid, or that was actually so irrelevant to what we were talking about that I didn't want to derail us more than I already do. So these are things that popped up into my mind afterwards when I was writing this episode. So some of them you're going to be like, Belle, when did we talk about this? Because we probably didn't. And I probably was just like,
associations.
Yes.
Free association.
Mm-hmm. What is the mocha?
Do you mean the MoMA or the mocha?
There's museums of contemporary art too.
When you originally sent the questions, you said MoMA.
Well, guess what? What is the MoMA?
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. MoMA is a museum, or Mocha is a museum of contemporary art, and it also is a type of coffee. There are lots of mochas, lots of museums of contemporary art.
This one is in Cleveland.
Woo!
Yeah, there's Mass Mocha. I've been to the Mass Mocha in Massachusetts.
See, I knew we talked about
been to the
one.
Fall River Mocha. FR Mocha, Fall River Museum of Contemporary Art.
See, I couldn't remember what mocha. I just knew there was a mocha, and you guys kept saying mocha. I was like, what is that? And then I was like, what the fuck is the MoMA?
So MoMA is Museum of Modern Art, and there are also a lot of those, but perhaps the one that we were talking about all the time is the one in New York, because it's
New York.
It's the most prominent one. It's very famous.
This is a MoMA.
I think now this is a good opportunity to define modern versus contemporary art, because for a long time I didn't know what that was.
You are taking the words out of my brain.
So
please, for the love of God, will you explain that?
So modern art is the late 19th century, so the late 1800s, until 1960 or 1970. Contemporary art is 1970 until now. So MoCA has usually art that is concurrent, like art that is happening now. MoMA has art from like 1890 to 1965, approximately. So if you go to the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, for example, you can see a self-portrait of Van Gogh. You can see
alongside of Frida.
That's
crazy.
Alongside like a mobile sculpture from like Alexandra Calder.
I don't know who the fuck that is.
It's like a 1960s optical illusion artist.
That's so cool.
Listen to our modern art CIA episode.
Yeah.
Yes, because we talk about these
museums.
We talk about these museums. We talk about these movements and like what sort of the underlying implications of that may have been.
It is crazy to think, because when I think of modern art, I think of like Rothko.
Yes,
in my
that
brain.
is right.
But then I forget that like so many different people were active during that time doing different
things.
genres and styles of art. So it's not as limited as I tend to think of right off the bat.
There is so much modern and contemporary art because it is now the most accessible it's ever been, even though it is still highly elitist.
Yeah.
You know, lots of barriers, intellectual barriers, like verbal barriers, words.
Even if you're technological
barriers,
if you don't have the money to buy
educational
paint,
barriers.
yeah.
Absolutely,
Buy an
absolutely
iPad.
financial barriers.
iPad baby.
iPad baby.
What is the Met? This one was easy. I actually knew this one.
Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Just had to put it in there because there was
one
a moment.
One of the largest museums in the world, most vast collections.
In the world?
Yes.
Damn. Then, how are you guys? How are you now?
Stefan?
How are you now?
Stefan? Is that Stefan?
Mm-hmm.
Stefan Breitweiser, listen to it, Crybaby Art Thief episode.
So how are you guys before?
I was doing great.
And how are you now?
Unsettled.
Okay. How were you before, Mia?
I'm really feeling good. I feel like all of us
Really
are having
good
a
day?
good time today.
What happened next?
You keep turning off and on the Stefan photo and asking us how
It's
we
like
feel
a bit of
before
an
and after
assault.
it. I feel like it took me a second to realize that was him, but you know what? Those are big crybaby eyes.
They are.
Big blue crybaby ass
Looks a bit
eyes.
constipated in
He
this.
does
There's a
look
recent
a-
picture of him, I think.
Do you think his fingers are tingling?
Yeah.
Oh, he has to steal. He's got to get something. I think he's looking for
That
your
was
heart.
your very first episode, Belle.
It was. That's why I had to put it in
That's
there.
so
Had to.
nostalgic.
And look where we are now.
You're
How are you,
running an
Belle?
episode. How are you? How's this feeling?
So I was pretty stressed when I got here. It's been a long day, and I was worried about the episode and doing a really good job. And then after I see the Stefan picture, I feel good because I remember how far we've come
yeah.
Come so far.
and that my hairline isn't as bad as his.
Yep.
Not at all. Never will be.
This is something I asked myself during an episode. Don't remember when it was. And I said, is the statue of David in Florence or am I tripping? It is. It is in Florence. It is. I was right.
Good to know.
I wasn't tripping. It is in Florence. What did Michelangelo do?
He painted the Sistine Chapel.
So much. The answer is so much.
Episode loading, yeah,
Episode
exactly.
loading.
Because it is nuts how every single artist everywhere till the end of time, Michelangelo, his name is now just equivalent to best artist of all time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everyone, I think that he just truly mastered anatomy to a point where, like he was almost more advanced than medicine.
Yeah. I do know
Wow.
he really advanced, like, anatomy sketches and things like that. I do know about his drawings.
Well, it's so not like I see graphics all the time where it's highlighting different like parts of his sculptures, statues, and you'll see like one specific tendon bulging out of someone's forearm that connects to a specific joint in the hand, and like no other artist had
Insane.
done. Like it's just such insane observational research that it's people think he's divinely inspired.
It makes sense because that's something I noticed as well. Is like even in the statue of David, like other paintings I've seen, hands look very flat. They look very soft. The body looks very soft. Like even when they do muscles, like it just looks like
It's fleshy.
it's fleshy. Yeah. Like David, like I can't really see in this.
Jacked.
Like that's a man.
That's
a
a man.
real man.
That's like a human person.
Like that's a man's face. Look at the contouring on his nose.
It's insane.
Disturbing.
And the flesh is different to whatever area. So you see like the forehead ridge, you can tell the texture of the forehead versus the texture of the pockets on the mouth, like in each corner of the mouth, versus the dimple in the chin,
Ever so
versus the
slight smile
cartilage in
lines.
the ear. Like it's so insane.
It's insane. That's a rock.
That's making me stressed out.
He made that out of a rock. In fucking insane. Sorry, I keep swearing.
That's okay. It's
basically,
Michelangelo. Episode loading.
He did so much. Episodes loading. Mia's doing it. Most notably, Sistine Chapel, Statue of David, the Medici.
Medici. Medici.
What the hell is the Renaissance? Okay,
Stupid babies.
Wow.
That aren't babies.
Wow.
They're
Dogs
monsters.
that look like Lilo.
Wow.
Dogs that look like
See,
Lilo.
this is something I still don't have context for what you're saying because.
They don't know how to paint babies. They painted babies that look like small men.
Oh, you mean like literally the babies?
Yeah, like literally the babies in the images.
Mia's
Sorry,
calling
that's what I
all of them
associate.
babies.
I thought you were calling all of them babies. I
Oh
was
no, like I'm
oh.
talking about specifically the babies in the paintings.
Okay.
Anyway,
Then we're on the same page because look at that child.
So strange.
What is that?
I guess like babies just tended to die.
So they didn't have much of a breath.
They didn't have so much of it. They were like, "Hey, Brian, can you go stand really far away so that I can draw
look
you to
small."
scale?"
Well, yeah. So the Renaissance is that, and it's also referring to a lot of things.
Yep.
Okay? It's referring to a period of time. It's referring to an art movement. It's referring to a classical movement in literature. It's referring to
This is true.
space in time and literal on the ground in between reformist religion and fucking what was before it. Oh my God, good Lord. Humanism. It's like a train of thought. It's a physical
lot
thing you write
happening,
down.
yeah.
There's a lot happening. I think something happened in the 1600s, 1500s, 1600s, one of those.
I think 1500s is, and then early 1600s as well.
16th century. I always get those confused. Yes.
16th century? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Something happened where people woke up one day and were like, man, if God is real, he's really mean. I don't think I want to live like that anymore.
I don't want to eat this slop.
I don't want to eat this slop from the Pope. What I want to do is I want to actually have a free thought and walk around in nature. Oh, you guys don't know that reference, do you? Tammy Brown, she goes, I don't see you walking kids around in nature. Anyways, RuPaul Drag Race.
Love.
They want to go walk around. They want to think freely. And they start thinking like, wait, hold on. Maybe I'm creative, and I'm not creative just because God made me creative. Maybe I just
am because that's who I am.
Maybe I just am because I am. So then that started, and then that kind of snowballed the Renaissance, and the next slide, which is about the Enlightenment. Reformist movement after reformist movement after reformist movement. It's insane. So the Renaissance was based on the idea of free thought for the first time, I guess, in human history, which is fucking crazy to me. Which is actually not true, because I'm actually listening to I'm just going to ramble. I don't care. It's my episode. I'm listening to a podcast on the history of Rome, and they talk a lot about how Roman society was built on the concept of free thought and like secular thought and all that kind of shit. And then Christianity didn't come into play until later on. Yeah. And then once it did, it like dominated.
Like the Renaissance is the first time that free thought is sort of, forwarded.
Yeah.
Since Christianity became,
And then they started making art that was mathematical in approach, realistic in intent, and what was the end of my sentence? Well, what were you going to say, Myra?
I was going to say, again, I don't know much about the Italian Renaissance, but I do think that has become the Renaissance that everybody thinks of when they think of the Renaissance. I did learn a lot about the Dutch Renaissance, which was very Catholic. Visually, the art was very Catholic.
I was going to say, when I think about the Renaissance, a lot of what I imagine is religious art.
But that's the thing. It's not the absence of religion. It's the culmination of all religion together to not only separate the human experience from the divine, but also... You know what I'm saying? Like now humans and the divine are separate, but it does not mean that they are not holy to them.
Right,
I can
because it's still part of life.
Exactly.
But it's just looking at it in a different context. Yeah.
Renaissance, by definition, is just like a cultural explosion. So there's also the Ottoman Renaissance, the Harlem Renaissance, other ways that cultural thought and art and science have sort of unfurled. But I think that the household name of the Renaissance is the Italian Renaissance, Western Europe.
And that is why I had it lowercase, because it's not the Renaissance, it's a Renaissance. So I just wanted to kind of,
get some little clarification.
Yeah, a little stubborn on it too as well with the lowercase r, just because I'm sassy.
You're so sassy.
So the Enlightenment refers to a period of time, again, about religion, except this time, they're like, I don't really care today. I want to learn even more about myself as a person. We're going to talk philosophy. We're going to talk ethics. We're going to talk morality and mortality and science and all this shit that they literally tell us not to worry about because God's got it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the Enlightenment was sort of when, at least in Western Europe, this was the first time that they were talking about morals separate from religion. And how humans have, a moral compass and moral ideals independent of culture, independent of religion.
So cool.
Mia entered the studio while I was taking these notes. The one note about the Enlightenment that I wrote down without looking anything up, especially as somebody who I feel like I name drop the Enlightenment a lot because I talk about 19th century, early modern art quite a bit. White men start thinking.
White men start thinking for the first time.
1685 to 1815.
First time
have ever pondered. They were like, hey, guys, what if we thought?
And they're thinking all together in a room, which must have just been horrible.
It must have stunk. Then they did this. So Protestant Reformation, I kind of cut myself off. That just refers to the breaking apart of Catholicism. People being like, wait, no, this is actually really hard and it sucks. I don't want to be Orthodox anymore. And the Catholics were like, ah! So now there's Protestants and there's Catholics. And
another thing the Protestants hated was religious art.
I'm not sitting here agreeing with the Protestants. I'm not sitting here thinking the Catholics were better either way.
No.
You know
either way.
I mean?
I was just thinking how the effect that the Protestant Reformation had on art in the Netherlands is insane to look at. The way that art went from being only religious art, because that's what the Catholics ate up. A lot of it was church-based commissions. And then it's that's a painting of a milkmaid. That's a painting of a landscape. Yeah. And it's a painting of
some
still
swirls.
life.
Some swirls.
Some swirls.
Today I painted swirls.
That's me. That's literally me every day.
That's because of the Protestant Reformation.
And it all goes back.
You can thank them. You can thank them in the 17th century, in the 18th century. You can thank them for your swirls. Anyways, the Enlightenment's cool. Isaac Newton was around during the Enlightenment. It's all about science. It's all about really cool, awesome, progressive
Human
stuff.
rights. They were like, let's free the serfs. So what if we taught everybody to read?
The Enlightenment expired as a victim of its own excesses. So the people who were really caught up in like the emotional aspect.
They were like, wow, this is so cool and beautiful and life is wonderful.
Romanticism.
Yes.
Which isn't bad, but doesn't really get anything
Yeah, but they're not
done.
like burning down any buildings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're just making nice paintings.
They're skipping.
They're skipping, and I love looking at the stuff that they've done.
Great
give
job.
It to them. Great job. And then there's the other people who took it very seriously, you know, as a revolutionary does.
Like, what if we made a guillotine?
What if we made a guillotine? What if we were the French, and what if we had many a revolution, and what if it just kept not working? And
they just didn't stop.
In America, you know, what if we overthrew the king?
That does make sense.
That makes sense now?
That does make sense.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
And I do think that the individual aspect, or individualism aspect of the Enlightenment does come from the philosophy of like Greece and Rome and the Protestant Reformation and the Renaissance and all that, what have you. But I think it is also rooted in capitalism. Early modern capitalism was established in this time, and paving your own way in the world became a thing that people were told that they had to do, sort of tied to that.
They got rid of the feudal system, so there goes like birthright ruling, you know what I mean? And with it, you know, the thought of equal government. And anyways, I love the Enlightenment. It's awesome. Let's try it again. Enlightenment 2?
Yeah.
Yep.
Squared.
On Instagram. Anyways, what's dry brushing? What is dry brushing?
I don't know what that is.
This is in the wrong category. This is supposed to be in technical category.
It's here now.
Oh my God.
It's here now.
I believe that it's just applying paint with a dry brush. So instead of putting your brush in water or some kind of solvent before applying it, you just go brush, paint, painting surface.
How do you're using the brush, you got to take the other paint off. Mm-hmm. Brush is wet. Mm-hmm. How long do you expect me to wait for the brush to dry?
Wipe.
Typically you have a rag or a paper towel and you smudge, or you have a collection of brushes that you're working between.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Anyways, okay, so that's that.
A drill press?
Do either of you know what a drill press is?
No.
Zoe keeps mentioning it. I think I'm supposed to know.
Gaz has one, I believe. It's something that you drill holes with.
It's a stationary drill that bores holes into not only wood, not only metal, but also plastic.
Whoa.
It's just a drill that stands.
Of course.
Now the listeners, you know, all three of us even, we're master artists, you know?
Yeah, we're masters.
We have the opinions.
We have a guild.
We have a guild.
Gilded Eye podcast.
We have a Gilded Eye, and it's a podcast. We now can give people our opinions because they're right, because we know everything.
So we're correct. Yeah.
Subjective who?
Never. So I'd like to know what you guys think.
Okay.
About some things.
Guys, keep in mind, listeners, that this is subjective.
Yep.
And please don't get too angry.
Trust me.
Okay, go.
Trust me, they won't, because this is a bunch of bullshit. So tell me what you think. What do you think about this? Is Leonardo da Vinci an artist or an engineer first? What are your thoughts? Do you think his engineering feats or designs are more interesting than his art? Do you think his art, his style, his technique is far more compelling than the funny little machines that he created in his mind?
Well, I think that if you can see someone's visual thinking process, that is very cool artwork to me. Mm-hmm. So they kind of go hand in hand, which I know is not the most interesting answer.
That is the answer.
That is what I think.
I agree.
I like art, so therefore I like to look at his art. So I am inclined to say artist first, but also porque no los dos?
Is the Mona Lisa overrated, and why is it?
I just don't think that anybody needs to be waiting in line for several hours to stand 10 feet away from something.
You're not even 10 feet. You're 200 feet, I swear to God.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Oh, we had this conversation.
I think we did. I did not. I've
the
never seen it.
size of your literal head, and it's 200 feet away. because people want to steal it that bad. I'm sorry. Anyways, next. Tell me what you think. Would you kiss this woman?
Of course.
Frida
Kahlo?
Frida Kahlo, and yeah.
Would you kiss this woman?
Of course.
Okay.
Would you?
Would I kiss this woman, Frida Kahlo? Yes. We actually have.
I'm telling Zoe.
She has as well. What is your favorite museum?
The museum I have frequented the most, therefore it probably is my favorite, has been the Boston MFA because I just go there often. But honestly, I've been to a handful of museums, but not enough and not super frequently. It's something that I would love to do more of and I want to travel in order to see and consume as much art as I can.
Me as
so
well.
when I travel, I want to go see
Please
other
fund us.
super prevalent museums. Yeah, fund us.
Yeah.
I would say the museum that I have frequented the most is probably the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The first time that I went there, I was 15 years old. It is just, there's such a vast collection. I would say, though, I was going to say my favorite museum is probably the Boston MFA. I went for the first time this year, and I was stunned.
Really?
They have a phenomenal collection. I really love the way that they arrange space. I feel like they have education in mind and engagement with the community in mind. And I know that they host a lot of events. Like while I was there, I stumbled upon a collage making event.
Oh.
And I was like, okay,
Did you
for
collage?
free. I did. I made a collage.
Amazing.
It was fantastic. I did it for like 3 hours.
Sounds so nice.
Yeah, please hire me, MFA Boston. I've applied to your positions.
Also, it's like it's like you can kind of see most all of it in one day.
Yeah, you
like
can. You can make a trip. It is.
Yeah.
Also, they had this exhibition. I'm not sure if it's still up, but it was up around late October, I think, was when I saw it. Early November, around election time, and it was about activism.
I saw that.
It was I cried.
It was amazing.
It was such an amazing exhibition.
Those Norman Rockwell.
Yeah, I saw the
pieces.
giant Norman Rockwell's. The Four Freedoms, his
Yeah.
most famous. And there was, oh my gosh,
That was incredible.
so much.
That's so cool.
What's your favorite museum?
I think I've been to a lot. My dad's a big history guy, so we've on vacation we'd go just to see history stuff. Not a lot of art museums though. He's not an art head. Nostalgic wise, the Worcester Art Museum because
I love the Worcester
spent
Art
many
Museum.
a summer there. I can still smell it. Like if I close my eyes, I can see the main atrium room with like the mosaics on the floor, and I can smell it, and it's like makes me emotional. I love it there.
I haven't been there enough, but it is such a beautiful museum.
It's just
it
cute
really
and
is.
small. My nana used to drop me off. It was cute.
The first museum I ever went to was the Pequot Museum.
Yep.
Obsessed. I was obsessed.
Next question. Who is your favorite Roman emperor?
Oh my God.
This is a statue, a bust of Caligula. So he can't be your favorite because he's the worst one. So you can pick any of the other ones.
Favorite Roman emperor?
Yep.
Oh my God, there's some friggin' idiots in there.
Yep. There were a lot. This is kind of just a joke question.
I feel like violin guy is up there.
What's his name again?
Nero?
No,
Was it
he's
Nero?
one of like the worst men ever to live.
Yeah, he sucks, but like what
We'll
a
put him there.
story, you know?
Yeah, what a story.
I don't like any of the Roman emperors, actually.
No, I just thought
Myra's
this
the
was
only
funny.
one who got that question right.
Next question.
Exactly.
Do you like this piece? Be honest. Do you really like it? Are you being honest? Do you mean it? Explain to me what part you like to look at. No, not its historical significance. What looks nice about it? Tell me. Do you like this piece? And the piece I'm referring to is Untitled Red. My least favorite art piece I've ever seen in my life.
By who?
Rothko.
Rothko.
Mr.
Tell me
Rothko.
what you like visually about the piece without mentioning any historical context whatsoever. Go. Thought so. Next. What is your favorite Frida Kahlo painting? This is my favorite one.
I like her deer one. I forgot the name of it.
Oh my God.
It's the one where she put her head onto a deer's body, a wounded deer,
Yes.
or I think it's just called Wounded, but it's her in a running deer's body, and there's arrows piercing all over the deer's body to reflect her own physical trauma that she was going through forever, perpetually.
So good. Also, that last question was a joke. I hope you know that. It was just a joke. Okay, good.
I
Go ahead.
saw a Rothko today at my dermatology office, and I was like, I thought of you immediately.
My doctor's office is full of bad Frida Kahlo ripoffs.
Like, oh my God.
Like full. Like on every inch of the wall.
My favorite Frida Kahlo painting is probably My Dress Hangs Here. Is that what it's called?
yes.
My Dress Hangs There.
Or My Dress Hangs There, yeah. In New York, all that industrialization, all that commotion, and the ribbon motif.
The ribbon motif.
Oh, the ribbon motif. See, motif. Coming back. I like this one. I forget what it's called. I wrote it in the notes down below, I think.
I think it's like Me Between America and like it's kind of a literal title, I think, but I don't want to get it wrong.
I quite like it because while it is symbolic, it's also not. It's very literal. She's like, yep, here I am. I love it. Love her. Long live Frida Kahlo. I don't remember what's after this.
I think we've brought up Frida in every single episode, and I really love that.
I'm glad that we,
Hold on.
Biggest fan.
Next question. Did you see this movie?
I did.
Yeah,
Stars
of
Born with
course,
Lady
of course.
Gaga.
I cried.
Just making sure. All right, and I think that's my last question. Let me just... Oh, sorry. So anyways, those are 2 more pictures of Lady Gaga. If you haven't seen what she looks like recently, check it out. And also listen to her new album, Mayhem.
This is not sponsored. Belle is
Lady
just
Gaga.
the biggest Lady Gaga stan in the whole world.
But yeah, that's it. Those are my only questions about art that I have right now. I probably have to do another one of these in like 2-3 months, but yeah, that's
You should
it.
just keep a notes app open like during our episodes, and if you have any questions, you just write them down in the moment.
Yeah, the
And
problem
then
is
go
I
back.
sit there like
Right.
just taking it all in like I'm listening to a podcast.
I'm trying to think. I think there are some other art terms that we could throw in while we're here.
Probably.
And plein air.
Plein air.
Plein air means to paint outside. It's kind of French. Contrapposto.
Contrapposto is a very casual pose that a model will take where it shows that they're favoring one leg over another. So it's just like an imbalanced stance. Whereas like in medical textbooks and things, you'll just see like the body kind of floating.
Yeah.
Or like extremely symmetrical.
Very rigid, yeah.
Yeah, so that's like the difference between kind of conceptualizing a human form and then observing a human form.
Keeping it cash. Oeuvre, I can never say it right. Do you know this word?
Oeuvre.
I always read it as oeuvre, but it's probably oeuvre.
My professors would always say oeuvre, but they would say it, and I remember going into art history classes, I'd be like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And so I looked up all these terms. Yeah, I didn't know what oeuvre meant, but it means like all of the work in somebody's collection.
That's all I have.
This was fantastic.
Just questions I had in my head.
One of many Belle episodes.
Maybe.
More to come.
This was stressful.
One of a handful of Belle episodes to come.
I like to host, but I don't like to present. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's brilliant.
But you guys liked it?
It was so
That
good.
was so good,
Thank you, Belle.
I think that was such a necessary episode,
It's like a little bit of a break. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much for listening. Oh, song and shout out of the week. I'm starting this new thing. You guys can also do your own song and shout out of the week as well, but I want to do this. My song of the week is Vanish Into You by Lady Gaga.
That's my favorite one out of the album. So good. I'm going to listen to it in the car.
Or Blade of Grass.
Blade of Grass.
Probably going to go with Vanish Into You. And my shout out of the week is to Portia. Because I feel
Portia's our biggest fan.
I don't know if we've actually put it in an episode yet that talks about Portia, have we? Mm-mm. She listens to every episode. She's always telling us how much she loves it.
It's brilliant. You're brilliant.
Song.
Asshole of the week.
Asshole of the week is still Caravaggio. He has been purposefully omitted from my slides.
Yeah.
I have had a revelation. Today's political climate, I know it is scary to be who you are, and it's scary to be out there and be queer and be a woman and have disabilities, but I saw this video of this woman talking about how queerness is her salvation, and she believes that God made her exactly the way you are. And I don't believe in the Christian God in any way, but she said that she fully believes that she was put on this earth to experience life the way that she was. And I think that is important. And I think that if that means I die being a queer fucking woman, then that means I die as a queer woman, and that's the way I was meant to be. Be who you are. Ask questions about art, because you know what? It should be accessible to all people. Period.
So true.
Yes.
Period.
And that's why we made the podcast.
That is
in the
literally
first place,
why we made the
because we were
podcast.
like so sick of having to deal with stuffy academic settings to learn this stuff in.
There needs to be ways to learn that aren't in the traditional context.
Yeah.
And yes, you need to listen to us talk about Bob's and the like in order to
Sorry.
get that information. We're sorry, okay? We can't be perfect
You
all
have to
the
listen
time.
to Bob's. You have to listen to Belle's political rants. And
Swear words.
Swear words, okay?
Yeah.
Done.
This turned into a threat.
No, just kidding. I love you so much.
But anyway, okay, I love you so much. They don't really love you as much as me.
Wow. This is why you're my second best friend. I'm back to the first one.
Mad. Okay, anyway, bye. See you next time. Bye.
I love you.